Carry On Only, dedicated to inspiring your next global adventure. And now, here's your host and personal guide, award-winning photographer, creative director, and travel expert, taking you around the world in style, Jill Pater.
I'm your host, Kevin, with my colleague, Sam.
Hello.
How's it going, Sam?
I'm good. How are you?
Awesome. We're from Calpac, and we're here with Jill Pater, our resident travel expert. How's it going, Jill?
It's going well, thanks.
Awesome. So, Jill, today you are going to take us to Cape Town, South Africa.
Yes.
That's exciting because
I'm
I
so
know
excited.
zero about Cape Town.
Okay. Well, prepared to learn so much today.
Awesome. Okay, Jill, so the pictures of Cape Town look absolutely gorgeous. How hard is it to actually get there?
Well, it does take from the U.S. It does take a bit of time to get to Cape Town. I can't lie about that, especially from the West Coast. But typically flights from either the West Coast or through Washington D.C. go through Dakar, Senegal, and then down. So it's about 10 hours over and then another 8 to 10 hours down. So it is a lengthy flight. But once you are there, it's worth its weight in gold.
So you probably need like a really good podcast to listen to.
You do, yes.
Oh,
yeah.
like Travel and Style?
Travel and Style, yes.
Oh, okay.
Exactly. Granted, they're 20-minute episodes, but
Right. Back to
you
back.
can listen to it over and over again.
Binge listen.
Awesome. Okay, so once you're there, once you're in Cape Town, have you found that it's difficult to kind of navigate throughout the city or just to get to different places? Like, how hard is it to actually move about in Cape Town?
So the city is geographically centered around Table Mountain, a large mountain. And so it's a sprawling city, and sometimes there is a bit of traffic around. And so it's just a matter of, depending on where you are and where you want to go. It's absolutely stunning. There's multiple, it's a rather large city. Mm-hmm. And so there's just a lot of options of where to go. And as long as you kind of plan the time of day you're going, traffic usually isn't a huge issue. They also have the great thing about Cape Town, there's tons of different, small day trip tours. So anything you want to do, you can go in small groups, very affordable. Cape Town also has Uber now, so that makes it easier to get around. Nice. You just want to be a little bit aware of safety in South Africa. Doing things by yourself at night is not a good idea. Driving by yourself, yeah. I would say as a foreigner, probably not the best idea there. I wouldn't take that risk unnecessarily unless you have to. When I was there, Uber was not yet in South Africa. So I had a driver, and that was just a great way of like being with somebody who knows the area, you're comfortable with at all times. And especially if you're going into the townships and, other parts that are off the main beaten path.
No, I think so you brought up safety, and I think that's definitely a great kind of question and thing to think about. So, when you do go into all of these different countries, I'm sure that's, a topic that's definitely front and center in your mind. But did you find that in Cape Town, is there any sort of safety precautions you need to have? Like, do you need to take extra measures? Do you plan out, anything in advance when you go there, or just really kind of just research where you're going?
There definitely are. And the safety question is always a hard one to ask. I mean, when I look at new destinations that I haven't been to, it's my number one question. And I think safety means different things to different people. And for me, I always want to know, like, ultimately, what do I need to do? And I think the biggest thing is like securing transportation. So at the time, I had a driver for like my day trips. You don't hail taxis on the street there. Driving there is something I just definitely wouldn't do by myself, not least because of navigation challenges. But for there, it's just it's taking those precautions, and certainly at night, being on the road at night, I had American colleagues that were there, and the one day I didn't have my driver with me, was driving with them, and I felt very unsafe. Like we didn't know where we were not in a particularly good area, and this was a little bit outside of Cape Town, but you immediately feel that. And so just using, and this goes for any country, but particularly South Africa, using local experts, people in the travel industry to help you get around, I think is just the best way to go and to circumvent any safety issues.
So how long were you there? How long did you spend time?
So I was there for about 2.5 weeks the first time.
Was that enough? Or?
No, in fact, as soon as I got home, I booked another trip like 2 months later to go back again.
Amazing.
Yeah. Cape Town is one of my favorite cities in the world. To me, it has a trifecta of, just amazing people, very rich culture, history, amazing food and wine, like one of the best food and wine regions
Sold.
in the world.
Yeah, I'll go.
Yeah.
And it's
Same.
actually very affordable. Traveling with the US dollar there, the dollar to rand is very much in our favor. So things for us feel very, very reasonable and in a lot of cases, in fact, inexpensive. So absolutely beautiful place. Just for me, it's like easily one of the top 5.
That's
South Africa is one of the
incredible.
top 5 countries in
Yeah.
the world, but Cape Town, top 3 cities in the world for sure.
So what time of the year did you go? And what time of the year do you recommend?
So being in the Southern Hemisphere, the best time is usually November to February. That is their
Okay.
summertime. Their shoulder season, like October and March, is still a pretty good time to go. It does get quite cool because it's a coastal town. You have like those coastal, breezes coming in. It does get quite cool in their winter. For me, their summertime is definitely its season. It's also a fun time to be there. A lot of filming happens there.
Okay.
So people from all over the world will film in South Africa because it's kind of the opposite of the Northern Hemisphere seasons. And it's absolutely stunning backdrop to really do any type of shooting. So there's a lot of people there and it's a great time to be there.
Yeah. What? Yeah.
So when you went to were you inspired to go there, or did you go for work? Did you go for pleasure? What was, I guess, your reasoning?
I went for both. And I shot, while I was there, I shot primarily residential modern architecture and some of the most beautiful homes.
Sure.
Absolutely stunning homes. They're built into the mountains, overlooking the sea. It's just kind of the perfect. It's not dissimilar to California architecture. It's just they have the land, and usually, the budget goes a little bit further there. So you see some just incredible modern homes, some of the best I've seen in the world, frankly. And just the background, the landscape there is out of this world, the ocean, mountain, sea. I was in a celebrity home and literally the house was framed around the ocean. It was framed around Table Mountain. So you walked into one room and it was floor to ceiling glass. And then you just saw the mountain like through their living room. And then the other area was just ocean out the window.
I can definitely imagine the landscape, but for some reason, I'm having a hard time picturing the modern home in Cape Town. Did you have any thoughts about any expectations before going, and then were surprised upon visiting Cape Town?
Yeah, so I had researched quite a bit of, the modern architects there and had reached out and was doing some work for publications while I was there. So I had an idea, but once I got there and actually got to physically meet with them, you see their latest and greatest projects. And I was just shocked. Like every place was, one was even more incredible than the next. Amazing materials, indoor, outdoor living. It was out of this world.
That sounds amazing. Can't wait to see the photos.
Yes.
So when you go, do you go, because I know it sounds like sometimes you just you capture a lot of content, come back to, the States, and then start your editing, and you pull your content that you want for different books and different publications. But when you went to Cape Town, were you thinking specifically architecture or culinary, or do you go, with a certain subject matter that you want to shoot?
I usually go with a certain subject matter that I want to shoot. In this case, I knew it was, kind of the mecca of modern residential architecture. So that was definitely on the list. And then I also did some fine art work just on my own, for fun, shooting film, landscapes.
Are you always traveling with your camera? Like, just have it ready? Because I'm sure you see incredible sights 24/7.
I always travel. I usually travel with my camera. But I'm not the person who's always taking pictures. In fact, if you're out to dinner with me or we're out and about, I'm the last person taking pictures. When I'm shooting something, it's like I'm 100% dedicated to shooting it. But then when I'm not shooting, I almost never pick up my camera for fun.
Or how about your phone? How often do you take photos on your phone?
Very rarely. Only for documenting where I parked my car or where, the streets I'm on, or, taking a picture of a map so I can figure my way out. But I'm not that kind of photographer. If I'm shooting something, I want to be 100% immersed in it. I don't want to be 1 foot in, 1 foot out.
Yeah.
So,
no, I mean, I think that's amazing, because I think people today really get caught up. It's a very socially driven, content capture society in day and time. So I think that's great that you can really focus into your work, and then when it's playtime, you're just out having fun.
Out,
yeah.
right? What are your packing tips for Cape Town? You mentioned that it's their summertime. Was it humid? Did you do 1 to 2 pairs of shoes? I know you're carry-on only. So what were your outfits like, and what would you recommend?
So I recommend Cape Town. I had kind of 2 different outfits per day planned.
You had
And
work and
yeah, kind of
play.
more safari, like your khaki pants for a day for for being out and about and exploring. And then at night, it is, most of the restaurants are a bit dressier, so having evening clothes to go out in at night. But it wasn't, it's similar to the weather here in Los Angeles or Santa Monica, so it does get a little bit cool at night. So having a light shrug in summer is helpful.
And this is, probably just a little off the cuff question, but when you're traveling, right? Because I think about this, you're going to these exotic, faraway locations, and it takes so much time and effort to get there. Is there anything about traveling that you're just like, ugh, like I got to do that part again? Things that are just really don't look forward to?
I would probably say packing.
Yeah. Packing's never any fun, but it's definitely a necessity. You have to do it.
Right.
And over time, you get masterful at it, and you have tips and tricks. But I think in every case, it is really important, especially if you're traveling lighter, to really think through what you need and make that ideal master list, because some things are hard to get, and depending on where you're going, you can't just pick it up at a local store. So for me, the key is really having packed well, because it does impact, how much you enjoy your trip. In my case,
that's one of the things you've kind of become known for, is traveling very light.
Mm-hmm.
You've published the book Carry On Only.
Carry
Yes.
on only.
Right. So I think it is crazy. You go to all these, super far away locations, but you can do it. And, if it's a carry-on or, a couple bags, that's amazing.
You know what I have a question about, because you are carry-on only? Do you find yourself getting lost picking up souvenirs or buying, things you realize you don't need but you really want while you're there?
I think that's one of the great things about traveling carry-on only, is you learn not to do that. I think after,
So you're not a hoarder.
Right.
No, I'm not a hoarder.
I'd be wanting all these artifacts and, to take home, and souvenirs for friends.
I'm the opposite of hoarder. I think because early on in my travels, I was the opposite of what I am now. I mean, I would bring the kitchen sink, literally. And then you after a couple of times of carrying these super heavy bags up and down stairs and through alleys and through, brick streets and things where they don't roll well, you just learn the hard way that it becomes very cumbersome. It's actually very bad on your back and your body to be moving around with luggage like that for that amount of time. And so over time, you just shed weight. And the same thing with traveling, picking up souvenirs and things. A lot of that stuff you end up, purging at some point anyway. And, if it's, I'll buy small things for friends, either jewelry or chocolates or coffee, something small that.
Something like if you had to, you could maybe eat
it, exactly.
Yourself, right?
Yeah. I get a little hungry on the plane.
I better eat the chocolate.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, you learn to economize over time.
Yeah.
It just makes the trip more enjoyable.
It's definitely got to be a time thing, right? I mean, you travel so frequently, you're a master at it now, but I feel like that's my problem, is I'm just a notorious overpacker. So the fact that you can do that and go so far away for such extended amount of times is pretty amazing.
In a new place too.
Right.
It's you don't know what to expect or how you want to dress, and so that's kind of where my question's coming from, especially with souvenirs, because I can go a little crazy. For somebody who hasn't been there before, what would you recommend is the first thing that they go check out and see in Cape Town?
Cape Town, it's so well geared for tourism. I mean, there's just so many things to do adventure-wise. And it's very easy, as I mentioned earlier, to do kind of these day tours or half-day tours. So you can really see so much. And it's hard to pick a favorite. I love their wine country. So Stellenbosch, Paarl, and Franschhoek. It's just an amazing area. You have Michelin star restaurants there. I feel like we're always talking about food, but food and wine are cute.
Well, you got to travel with Jill more often.
And we don't, and we don't get, we do get South African wines here in the U.S., obviously, but not their best ones.
Yeah.
We don't get a lot of their wines don't come through here.
You just
and so
gotta
it's
go.
really a treat to kind of, experience that and experience the food that goes with it.
Okay.
There are a lot of nature sites. So the Cape of Good Hope, Table Mountain, some trekking, the different beaches.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, there's just so much to do. It kind of depends on your interest area. There are great art galleries. There's great shops. Speaking of souvenirs and not overstuffing your bag, Cape Town has beautiful design shops and interior items. Jewelry. there's so much to see. The townships, you can volunteer and support different humanitarian projects there. It's really limitless. I think there's something for everybody. And it's just, the landscape is so intoxicating there. It's just one of the most beautiful places in the world.
Was there anything that really surprised you or, kind of just knocked your socks off and you're like, wow, like I'm so glad I came here to see this or to do that?
And then booked again when
Right.
we came back.
Because of
Yeah. I was surprised at how, not that I didn't expect people to be friendly, but I was surprised at how friendly people were and how easy it was to travel. Because obviously, I had heard security concerns about South Africa. I was aware of, what the situation was. And so just didn't know. And I was just amazed at how friendly everyone and how easy it was to travel once you were there. Again, with like side trips I stayed at a guest house and the people running it were so friendly and helped me, gave me tips on where to go and helped secure the transportation. It was very easy once I was there. And I was there by myself. So it definitely made a big difference.
And that's another thing. So when you travel, do you prefer to do kind of these, Airbnb style locations, or do you like, more comforts of a hotel or resort?
I prefer the comforts of a hotel or a guest house, something that's professionally managed and run for guests. When I travel,
Especially when you're traveling solo, right?
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. When you're traveling with a group, like with my family, we rent Airbnbs and stuff
Right.
like that because it's just more comfortable. You can cook and you have a kitchen and things and easier to hang out. But when you're by yourself, oftentimes too, you're coming in at odd times of day. So if it's an Airbnb, they may only have check-in for a few hours in the afternoon. They might not be available to open it up. And also, I've had experiences with Airbnbs or apartment rentals where, there's something wrong. There's nothing they can really do. You've booked that apartment
Yep.
and you can't move. If you're in a hotel room, they'll move you. Or if you book through a site like booking.com and there's an issue with the hotel, they'll actually put you in a different hotel.
Yeah.
So there's some extra guarantees, and then the creature comforts of being able to order food and having,
Yes.
services around you and just safety, having people help you get taxis and transportation and
Totally.
and book other things. I think it's a nice to have.
Yeah.
Along with housekeeping, of course.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yes. Housekeeping and room service. Room service, I have to imagine, are probably the
Right.
best parts of
Just in
hotels.
case. I have a question. I kind of got lost in where you were explaining all the things that kind of surprised you and like what you would suggest for people to do as soon as they got there. Are you the itinerary type of traveler? You're like set in stone, or are you just kind of like, flying by the wind, or do you have an itinerary and then you get a little spontaneous in between?
Yeah, I'm definitely in between. I definitely don't ever go anywhere and have a fixed itinerary because that I think is just
Restricting.
bound to get blown out of the water. So what I usually do is I'll research a place and figure out all the things I want to do and see and kind of figure out like, is this a day trip? Is this a half day trip? How far is this? Just have an idea. And then when I get there, I try to book if it's like, transportation or whatever it is, maybe a small tour or something to go and do it. I usually book it in country once I'm there because there's just generally a lot more information and you can see your options a lot more clearly. But yeah, usually I have like a ton of printouts. I'll look at them on the plane like, oh, this looks cool or this looks cool. And then, you get advice from locals while you're there and then just book it up. But yeah, I stay flexible because otherwise you miss out on new things you haven't heard about too.
Because Cape Town is so far away and, such a lengthy process to get there, is there a type of traveler that, you would recommend Cape Town for, or, just because I know it might be a little bit difficult to get there for not
Just
the
anyone.
seasoned traveler.
Yeah, I think, Cape Town is actually one of those places that it appeals, I think, to all different demographics. Like it's a great place for kids. It's a great place for older adults and certainly, people our age. Their young 20s. Millennials. It really does. There's something for everybody there. I think if it was somebody who had difficulty traveling and being on planes, then obviously that kind of picks it out. But once you're there, it really kind of caters to a lot of different people. I think people enjoy it. And there are a lot of kids there. There's little local kind of safari places where you can see the animals and be there. So, that's just a no-brainer for kids. But it's a very travel-friendly city.
Nice. Well, it is now time for Jill's packing hack. We have a lot of questions from our listeners that would love to know your packing hack. So the question is, how do you pack your beauty regimen travel sized? You mentioned the carry-on only, but you'd be surprised. Some people like to fill the carry-on with all their vanity stuff. So how do you do it, especially for a summertime in Cape Town?
Yeah, so I have friends that do travel that way, that have a large suitcase full of hair products and things.
Right.
The first thing I recommend is making sure you have a compact, like a travel size, everything in your beauty regimen. So your face products, if it's a curling iron or, your styling tools, that everything is travel size. That is just going to save you some volume on the space. With the toiletries, I think it does pay to have, your latest and favorites with you. It's just keeping them compact. And now, fortunately, most retailers have figured out they can sell smaller amounts for more money.
Yes.
And so you can buy everything travel size. I think that's very important. I use face products by Dr. A.V. Skincare, and they do great night serums, day serums, and they just work really well on your skin, after you're on long flights and dry skin. So I think having everything you need, but really taking the time to make it compact and getting rid of your bigger tools, getting rid of anything you can buy there, like say body lotion. Say if you're going somewhere for 2 weeks, it's easy to pick up body lotion, but all your must-have things, have it travel sized and ready to go.
Wonderful and noted.
Awesome. Definitely good stuff again, Jill. Thank you so much for your time.
Carry on only.
Thanks for listening to Carry On Only, dedicated to inspiring your next global adventure. Listen to Jill take you around the world in style, live every week right here or 24/7 on demand at starworldwidenetworks.com. Please remember to like, subscribe, and share. For immediate access to Jill's destination guides, blog, and show notes, please visit jillpater.com and follow her on Instagram at Jill Pater.